You're listening to For Real Radio with Bria, Julia, Kayla, and Michael on WHIT-Radio.org, the sound of Hudson County Schools of Technology in North Bergen, New Jersey. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to For Real Radio, a place for the truth. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing the very real problem of prejudice and racism across the world. Is it still prevalent throughout our country? Is it a problem that we need to address? Does it still exist, and where did it come from? So let's go around, and I just want to talk about reasons why you think racism is bad, because I don't want to assume anything, but I think we can, that everyone thinks that racism is bad. But when it comes to backing it up, we need some solid reasons. So Kayla, is racism bad?
Yeah.
Why?
Cause, it's just, not right.
Why?
Alright, I'm Puerto Rican. Alright, I'm not gonna talk to Julia because she's Asian.
Why is that bad? I just want to know.
Because
of course it's bad, Kayla.
This is annoying.
No, but you just need to put it, what you mean, into words. Just try to express yourself. I want to hear why.
Okay, it's
exactly.
bad, not, let's say, associating with people just because they're a certain race.
Okay, why is that bad? You understand what I'm trying to do, though?
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back to you. Bria, I know you feel very strongly on the topic, so let's see if you can explain. Is racism bad?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Because, you shouldn't just judge a person because of what color they are or what skin color they are. It's today, people, or with peace and stuff like that, but if you really think about it, there's still people out there who are, they don't think like that, and I think that's, not right and stuff, so.
All right. And I did forget to mention in the beginning of the show, we have another our special guest with us. We have Mr. Jefferson, and I know Mr. P didn't like that I didn't introduce him, but Mr. Jefferson, welcome to the show. I just want to welcome you back.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Okay, so is racism bad?
Yes.
Okay, why do you think racism is bad?
There are, in the world of economics, we call them opportunity costs. Because I stopped being friends with you, or I never was friends with you because you're a certain gender, maybe I missed out on you helping me. Because I'm not friends with you because you're a female, maybe I missed out on some kind of help you could have done for me. I only hurt myself by shutting things off. Too many missed opportunities. It's not worth it. Plus, it's also, and this is just human to human, forget teacher to student, it's mentally and intellectually weak to say, I don't like you because of some superficial characteristic.
Right.
If I'm not going to like you, and it's okay not to like people, if I'm not going to like you, there's got to be some substantial thing behind it.
Right.
I'm not going to like you because you wronged me somehow, rather than because I don't know you. That's just weak.
No, I absolutely agree. Julia?
Life is too short to be weak.
You're going to have some trouble following up on that. You got some big shoes to fill. Is racism bad, Julia?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
It's cruel.
It's cruel?
Mean.
What's wrong with being cruel?
It makes people feel worthless, and it's upsetting.
Right. It's I think when it all comes down to it, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to another person? Because you can? It doesn't make much sense to me. I don't think it makes much sense to anybody. Unfortunately, though, people do it anyway. Obviously, we've come a long way. We live in a society now where we don't see racism, I think, the same as we saw it in the 50s, 60s, and before that.
Michael, this is Mr. P. Let's talk a little bit about the background of racism. We're going to talk about Jackie Robinson a little bit and the Jim Crow era. So let's get into that, okay?
All right, Mr. P, did you see Jackie Robinson?
Yes, I did.
How was
42. I thought it was a good movie.
42? You thought it was a good movie?
I thought so, yeah.
Now, going into seeing the movie, did you know, any facts about his life?
I did. I was pretty knowledgeable, I thought, about his life, you know, and this movie filled it in a little bit for me, gave it a little bit more, gave it a face, and I now can picture the whole culture and the whole location behind it.
Do you think the movie was pretty accurate on its facts?
I think it was. It was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
he, as we were talking about before, he wasn't picked because he was the best ball player available.
Right.
He was picked because of his character and his makeup, his personality makeup.
Right.
And Branch Rickey, who was the general manager of the time, knew that he needed a special person like Jackie Robinson to break the color barrier, and he did.
Right. No, I also saw the movie. I thought it was very well done.
Yes.
And going back to the history of racism,
Right.
I think from the time you had people, you had prejudice, and,
Yes, you did.
and so tracing it back is gonna take a few years if you want to go back that far.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the motive behind it, and one of the things that really contributes to it, is ignorance.
Well, you probably can trace it all the way back to prehistoric man. One man looking at another and saying,
Absolutely.
"Yeah, he's not as erect as I am. He's too hairy." You know, you can imagine all the little characteristics that they looked at each other, and and it just blossomed from that.
No, I think you're right, and it's just because they could. People do this because they can, and because it's really an easy way out. It's a nice it's an escape.
And people like to feel superior to other people.
Right.
And by putting somebody down, they feel they boost themselves up.
No, I think you're absolutely right. But racism today, and this is a very interesting topic. Does it exist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. We have a group discussion. I'm going to start with you, Julia. Do you think racism is seen today?
Yeah.
Where?
I mean, wait. Does
Does it still exist?
No, but I'm saying like with gay people. Does that
No,
count?
race. I'm not talking about prejudice right now. I'm specifically talking about race.
Yeah, it does.
But that's good.
exist
Okay, where?
everywhere.
Okay. I mean,
Julie's one word. She doesn't. She's a minimalist there.
I mean, I walk down the hall and I don't feel like eyes are staring at me for my color. Where do you see it?
More like, I don't know, Michael.
And you can use stereotypes. I want you to use stereotypes. Count in my book as do you see stereotypes? Just over color still today.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, Mr. Jefferson.
I'll tell you exactly where you see racism.
Right.
And it's undeniable. Real estate.
Real estate.
If you look at it, if you're going to buy a house, if you're in the market to buy a house, look at the price of a house in the Springfield Avenue section of Newark, in the Vailsburg section near Seton Hall in western Newark. You can buy a house for less than $35,000. That's amazingly cheap.
Yeah.
But look what you get with the area. You get ridiculous crime, and it seems that everybody in the area is black, or African American. Well, give the concession that everybody is the same color. And then you go to a place that you might consider stereotypically white, like Livingston. Houses are $3.5 million. Everyone is white, and you have de facto racism. If I'm a real estate agent, what incentive do I have to send a white family to the Vailsburg part of Newark?
Right.
Are they looking for a $35,000 house?
Right.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't want a nice-looking house for the cheapest amount of money at all?
Right.
But real estate agents seem to put people together. Oh, this is the... I was looking at a house in Bergenfield last summer, and I was specifically told, this is the Filipino section of Bergenfield. You don't want a house over here. And I said to the person who was also British,
Right.
not even American, just British.
Right.
So that's one thing. And I said, well, what makes you think I give a damn?
Right.
That my name was a Filipino. Do I care?
Absolutely.
All you should care about is, can I pay the bill?
Right. I actually have an interesting story. I live on a street, and all the neighbors are pretty close. And I was talking to this woman who was walking her dog, and we just had a black neighbor move in. And she said, it's terrible. All our property values are going to go down. And I was appalled by this. I I knew this woman for a while, and I just didn't think that she would assume that everyone's property values would go down because the family that moved in were black. Now, she doesn't know these people, and they turned out to be nicer people than...
You hit on something before when you mentioned the word ignorant.
Right.
Because that is such an ignorant statement
That
to
is.
make. If you know how property values are calculated, they're calculated based on what's inside your house.
Right.
If you have expensive furnishings, if your house looks nice, not who owns it,
Right.
but what's in it. What is it worth? What did it cost?
Well, she assumed that this black family was going to bring and destroy, the neighborhood that they were living in, property-wise, and it's appalling. And I think, it's sad, and it's not blatant racism that we saw in the 50s, but it's little comments like that, and it's these little nuances.
That's the worst kind because you can't get rid of that stuff.
Right.
That's so deep and ingrained in people's ignorant psyches.
Right.
You can't educate that out of people.
And it's not, and I don't want to make it look like it's just against black people. It's against all different kinds of races. A lot of Spanish stereotypes, a lot of Arab stereotypes. You'll see that a lot more. I can't even tell you some of the comments that I hear regarding Arabs that are absolutely terrible. No, but it still definitely exists today. Bria, where do you see it?
They invented this word, the N-word. Yeah, that people use in songs. And, I never understood why they created the word, to get away with it, or just to use it just because everybody's just using it.
Now, let me ask you a question. And now I loathe that word. I won't use it. But what do you do, and how do you support when two brothers, let's say that, two black people go up to each other, and they say, yo, what's good, my... Okay? Now, that's an issue. They don't seem to mind the term, especially when they use it. Why do you think that it's stuck and they still use it? Is that okay? Is that acceptable?
I mean, they used to get mad when they called them Negroes or stuff like that. They like the term, African American, and they feel like that's their title, you get me? And, I don't think somebody should just say, the N-word, and, I don't think it's right.
I think people, made it okay to, say it,
I don't know. It
I
just
feel
doesn't
like
seem
it
right
lost
because...
its meaning.
yeah.
Because,
it got,
people-
a different meaning now.
people say that to white people or Asian people or Spanish people.
As, brother and not...
Isn't that
Yeah.
ridiculous?
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there could be another word
because
used
the
for it,
term
but
was to us, to black people, and it wasn't. I don't think it's right because they used to call us that, but they just changed the end of the word, the ending of the word, and it still has the NIG part in it, which still bothers me.
No, I still hear the ER sometimes. It slips out when two folks greet each other. I don't go up to another white guy and say, "Oh, hello, what's good, my cracker?" And
Of course, 'cause you have to do it with that pronunciation. It has to be with that pronunciation.
Right.
What's good, Mike? How are you today?
and we all know. I don't know. Do we all know what a cracker is? Someone that used to crack the whip over a slave. That's where it comes from. Now that offends me. I didn't own slaves. My family didn't own slaves, and I'm certainly not pro-slave or
You
what
would
it
get
was.
offended if somebody called you a cracker?
I would, because it's not accurate at all. It's not me. It's not who I am. It's not what I believe in.
But what if they meant it in a different context?
Like what? Do I like saltine crackers? Sure, that's fine. You know? No, but that's what I'm talking about. It's a problem. Now, obviously, black people don't like the N-word, and that's and
Well, they do.
Well,
Well, some of them.
If I use that word with a black person, I never would. But if I did, that would not be acceptable. But what I say to them is, so stop using it. You know?
I got something on that.
Mm.
No one can insult you without your permission. So if someone calls you a certain name, I think of sticks and stones will break my bones and words will never hurt me. So you can call me whatever you want. If I don't care about you, then I don't care what you call me.
Mm.
If I care about you, then you could hurt me, you can break my heart. But you call me whatever you want. It doesn't matter because you don't matter to me. Not you with a four of you,
Right,
but
right.
you just you out there in general. You have to give your permission to be insulted. You have to give your permission to be offended, and it's not worth it. You could just turn off and say, your words are meaningless to me. This actually, to bring it back to racism, this works with the KKK. Why are there so few protests with the KKK these days? Because other groups just ignore them. The media ignores them. If you give people the attention that they want, then you blow this way out of proportion. But if you, like, the worst thing you could do for the N-word was to give it this this figurative burial.
Right.
I know Al Sharpton was there. He's one of my favorite guys. I met him once. I'm probably the only person in this room who can legitimately say, I met Al Sharpton.
That's pretty cool.
Burying the N-word and doing all that stuff just gives it more power. And that's the worst thing you want to do. If you want it to be gone, ignore it. Stop giving it credence. Stop giving it credibility. Just say, you called me what? Okay, I don't care. Just turn the other direction and go about your life.
Right.
Do something that you like.
But and as far as sticks and stones could break my bones, words will never hurt me. I think that works once, twice, 3 times, maybe 4 times. But after a while, there's a point where it does get through to you. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, we are people. We have ears. We may not listen, but we can hear it.
Then that becomes my fault for accepting the offensiveness of it. You could say all you want to upset me, and if it gets to me, it's my fault for letting it get to me. Yeah, you got some moral, a culpability for saying offensive things. You should know better, but I should care less.
Well, if you walked outside one day, and all you got was badgering and offensive words, it would take a toll on you.
I wouldn't care. And that's just me as a person. I'm more than
Right.
twice your age. So I've been at the stage of my life where it mattered and it cared.
Right.
It got me nothing, so I learned I don't have to care about it.
Right.
It's not important to me. Call me whatever you want. I smile because I don't give a damn.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think if you have that personality, that's great. If you have a thick skin, that's great. But what I am trying to say is that people are people, humans are humans. And after a while, hopefully you never have to take this test, but you're tested and you might have a breaking point. Let's see, where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about racism today and examples of it. Kayla, you're going to just end that up. Do you think there is racism today?
Yeah, I do.
Where do you see it?
I guess job-wise, maybe.
Okay.
Stereotypically, you would hire a American over an African American.
All right, you're onto something. You really are.
Because African Americans are supposed to be ghetto and whatever. So I don't know. That's just.
Now, obviously, not all of them are ghetto, but that
Yeah.
is the label they're given. And I think you are onto something with jobs. And I think people, when you go on a job interview, you bring in, unfortunately, a certain stereotype with your color, and people might think, oh, this guy's not going to do the job as well, or bring whatever with his work ethic. And obviously, that's not true. I actually saw a sign, and this is illegal, but I did see a sign on a Chinese restaurant the other day that said, hiring Chinese only. And I thought that was interesting, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
I did something interesting. Do you see racism in college acceptance?
Actually, you do, and you see a lot of reverse prejudice.
Isn't that just the same as prejudice, but...
Right. No, it is prejudice. Now, almost to address the issue of prejudice and racism, they have to take a certain amount of ethnic groups, which I see what they were trying to do.
Do you agree with it as a person?
That's a good question.
Put the host on the spot.
Right. Do I agree with that? No, I don't agree with that as a person. I don't agree with being prejudiced, but I think, especially with the college, a brain comes in many colors, and I don't care what color
Wait,
you
agree
are.
with what?
College is accepting a certain amount of, a certain percentage of an ethnic group.
Equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Um,
Or quota systems.
Right. In a perfect world, no, I don't agree with that. And in a perfect world, there would be equal opportunity anyway, because the college boards and things like that would not see color. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world.
But don't they like accept like a certain amount of like certain people to get like more diverse, like some colleges?
Yeah, right. And looking diverse is very good for them too. Actually,
All that does is just keep the media from sniffing around
Sniffing,
and
right.
seeing where the real trouble is.
right. I always wondered if this school has a quota
Hmm.
because this school has a very strict and a very prestigious acceptance process. If you get accepted, that's pretty good. This school only accepts a certain amount of people, a very small amount of people, and I always wondered if they do have a quota that they have to accept a certain amount of group. And unfortunately, if it comes down to color, someone else who has a better brain or is smarter or has more to offer might get left out because they're not a certain color. So
Here's the interesting thing. If you have a real meritocracy, which is nice, which is admirable, what if, because of that meritocracy, you lost diversity? What if all you had were Indian and Chinese students who were female between the age of like 12 and 15? If you're going to give everybody a seat because of how well they do, what's in their brain rather than what they look like, wouldn't you lose diversity? Everybody say hi to my wife.
Oh man.
We're live right on the air at the moment. Say hello to the radio audience, honey. No? Okay, we'll talk later. I love you. All right.
Right. So
Everybody's okay. Nothing
good.
bad happened.
Everything's good.
Everything is good.
All right.
Usually she calls if something bad happens.
No. But right. Would people be left out anyway because they're not as smart as?
Well, let me ask you the real controversial question.
Sure.
Isn't diversity just fake? What's the real meaning of having 10% this, 10% that, 20% this? That's just quotas, and didn't I pick you because you fill that quota?
Right.
Isn't diversity just fake?
And I think what it is, it's to appeal to this, obviously you said to the media, but it's just supposed to make us feel comfortable, like something is really being done.
See, I love talks like this because this is a philosopher's dream. For every one question we come upon, we invent 10 new questions.
Right.
Like, why be afraid of the media?
Right.
What power does a newspaper or a TV program have over the rest of society? So few people control so many. Why is that? How is that? What do you do about that?
Right.
This is perfect philosophical stuff.
No, I agree. And I was thinking, okay, let's say there's a college. Let's talk hypothetical. We have a college, and they do solely accept by certain statistics like scores on tests, just educational things, intellectual things. But it happens that their school gets filled majority with a certain race. Now, it wasn't due to any racism in the acceptance board, but that's just the way it is. It just happened to be that a certain race filled that school. Now, what I think what would happen is, of course, like the media and students trying to get in and that weren't accepted would jump all over that and use that as an excuse as to why they were not accepted. So I also think that today racism is an excuse. You could see it a lot of times. So what do you guys think of that?
I agree.
You agree?
I actually agree.
I noticed that we have a unique thing here where we can ask for a female perspective.
Yes.
Where it's not just people of the same. We do have a diversity here, but there's something more unique about the female perspective rather than the male perspective here. So I'm curious what is racism worse because you're a female rather than if you're a man? Is racism plus sexism? I notice I'm getting funny look over there.
I don't understand the question.
Doesn't being a different color and being a woman make it worse than just being a different color?
Yeah.
Doesn't being a female just exacerbate the racism?
Yeah.
Wait, does it make it worse or
Just being both.
just
Is
being
that
a
even
female
worse? And a different color. Is that even worse than just being a certain color? A different color?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know about now, but back then it was.
Yeah,
Well,
I think.
well, that's a whole nother show, and I think we ought to do that. Women's rights and what we could see now. I know we touched upon it
Yeah.
last time, but I think we can do a whole nother show about that. You know where you also see a lot of racism, and this is purely opinion. If you're on a certain side of the spectrum, you'll totally disagree with me, and that's in politics.
Oh, with Obama and
Yeah,
like, 'cause-
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show too.
How do you see racism?
Right. Now, again, it's a different kind of racism. It's not in your face. It's very subtle.
Absolutely.
But a lot of arguments will say, a lot of people will say that today's Congress, the right side, just goes against Obama because they can and because they don't want a black man in the White House.
Exactly.
What do you guys think of that?
Possible.
Yeah? You think so?
Possible.
I
Real-
heard they
yeah.
tried to like make him not become president again because of that reason, and they tried to like get him out the White House just because of his.
Well, how do you prove that?
I don't think it's right. I think like we need someone new, someone like that's African American, can make it, that can actually do it, and it doesn't have to be like the same race or the same exact thing or whatever. It shouldn't be like that. It should be something different each time.
I mean, what evidence do you have that
Yeah, like-
Republicans target him just because he's black? In actuality, the mother's side of his family is white. They're
Yeah.
from Kansas. The father's Barack Obama Sr. from Kenya, but the mother's from Kansas. So is he really black or is he just a mulatto? And that's another invented concept with how to measure racism. Well, we don't hate you completely because you're only half black.
Right.
You know.
No, but I do think, I do agree with you, Bria.
I don't know if that racism exists in Congress as much as it does at truck stops in America or at diners or at family reunions where people get together and they say, oh, well, we got a Muslim president. Oh, that's bad. Now we got this guy from Kenya. He's not born in Hawaii. He's from Kenya. If you're not going to like the guy, fine. Don't like him because he does something that you don't like, rather
Right.
than because of skin color or
Right.
anything like that. But I did want to mention, because I've been studying politics, for many years. There is a certain covert racism, and it's something that you got to dig to find. If you look at the black Republicans that have been popular in the past 15 years, you get people like Michael Steele, who was the head of the RNC. He's not a threatening kind of guy. He's like the Jackie Robinson of the Republican Party. Also, Colin Powell. I keep in my mind coming across the word token, that these are the token people.
Now, I like Michael Steele a lot, but he has made a big shift.
So is Colin Powell. It seems that the blacks are abandoning Republicans.
I wonder why. And I think, and if you ask Michael Steele, and I've heard it, I've heard him on MSNBC with I forgot. I think it might have been Lawrence or one of them. But he does agree that there is racism in Congress and the White House, and that just because we have a black man in the White House, and just because he looks different, they're not calculating what half is what. That's definitely a huge motive to go against him. And it was funny because to negotiate on the sequester, Obama didn't go in himself. He sent Joe Biden, blue-eyed, blonde-haired Joe Biden. And I thought that was very interesting.
Maybe that was because it was Joe Biden, senator for 36 years. He's known these guys more than Obama. Obama campaigned on being an outsider. I'm from Chicago. I'm not from Washington. If elected, I'll come in and I'll change everything. The establishment hates people like that. They get nowhere in life.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the outsiders that you can think of, like Abraham Lincoln and John Kennedy, get killed for it.
Yes. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think the outsiders, they get the knock. People don't understand what they don't know. So thank you, everyone. That'll be all for today. Thanks for tuning in for Real Radio, and we'll be back with you next time.
Always a pleasure, folks.
Yeah, it was fun.